Hey there, I'm Samantha Hartley here with Phil today. I help women consultants and a few good men who want to dramatically multiply their revenues by working with perfect clients to do just that without exhaustion. The best advice I think I've ever heard is to have a good time all the time. You might recognize that from the movie Spinal Tap. It's what has driven me to infuse my life and my work with joy, and I think it's the thing that can guide you to the all of the better directions in your life. Have a good time all the time.
Ooh, that's interesting. So did you, when you saw it in Spinal Tap, did you
Yeah.
start that then, or when did you start this in your life and your work?
I think I'll tell you when I started it, when I was in the depths of misery at corporate, leapt out and was like, I don't think we should feel that way. And then the more one of my big messages in my business is, or kind of sub brands is profitable, joyful consulting. We know a business should be profitable, but do we realize that it can also be joyful? And so coming from misery and like realizing that like I don't want to feel that way, also having had difficult personal relationships in the past and like being so joyful in my marriage to my husband, and then joyful friendships. I just, you can choose whether you tolerate like all these kind of life circumstances. You can choose joy and have a different experience. And I think when we first heard that, and I think for a lot of people when they hear that, they feel like, well, that's great, but no, like that's not possible. It's not possible to have a good time all the time. I'm like, well, what if you made that your goal and you were seeking joy? Another version of that is seek the joy of your own experience. One of my husband's acting teachers had said that, seek the joy of your own experience. Like, I think if we're doing that, then we're making that happen. You can make that happen.
Interesting. Seek the joy of your own experience and make that your goal, which I think, rather than really locking into the end there, we can focus on that journey, right? The journey
Yeah.
to joy.
Yeah.
And that's a lot better than, okay, well, I'm going to aim for crap. And
Yeah.
yay, I reached crap. And that sucks, right?
Well, people get addicted to struggle. They're like, well, what the thing that you have to do is you have to hustle and grind and you have to really work hard to get what you want. Well, what if, uh, hear me out, what if you can be joyful in the process and you're joyful in the doing of it? And I'll say this to my clients all the time is like, listen, if you're like running this business, I just want to work with my clients. I don't want to run a business and I don't want to have to get clients. And I don't want to do anything. I'm like, great. What you're describing is a job. In a job, they provide you with the stuff. In self-employment, we have to get the clients, we have to make the business run. As a consultant, you have to, the pursuit and the running of the business, the pursuit of clients, the marketing, the sales, the content that you're creating, like all of that, that has to be joyful for you, or you're going to be miserable most of the time in your business.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Because that's the real work. The
Yeah.
work that we actually deliver is often that's the gravy and the fun. I mean, we have to be able to do that, but that is often the joy. So we have to find the joy in the day to day
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the kind of fundamental stuff. So with that, right? Some people, I think, as you said, right, they love the misery or they embrace that misery too much. But
Yeah.
let's move that. Is that like some people's personal brand? Like that's why they hang on to that, or why do you think they do that?
I think it can totally be your personal brand. It's interesting. That's an interesting pivot in describing it that way. But so a brand is what we're known for or known as. And over time, you're going to develop that and it's going to stick, right? So people around you know you as something. Your family of origin knew you as like either, the smart aleck or like the oldest or the baby or the whatever. So you have kind of an identity in the family. And then you leave and at school, I don't know, maybe, I mean, I've heard about kids who went to school with each other a really long time. It's like, you're the one who's like, dad was an alcoholic, or you're the whatever, the kid who always gets into fights on the playground. So you start to get known for things, and personal brand. Once we go out into the world, and if you're in the business world, then you want to be known for a certain thing. And I feel like some people like fall victim to what they end up being known for or known as without realizing you can control that. I mean, you can't control what's going on in other people's minds, but you can control what you're putting out there. And over time, you can teach people to see you differently.
Okay, so putting stuff out there, being intentional about that, super important. So where let's back that up though. So how do we know what we want to be known for? I mean, that seems kind of meta, but how do we
Yeah.
know that?
The first thing I would say is you can be known for what you want to be known for. So to me, that awareness, like almost everything starts with awareness, right? You have a choice about how you're viewed and how you're seen and what you're known for. And if you find that what you're getting in your life isn't what you want, like you're not having a good time all the time, then what are you drawing into your life? And how are you being so that you're drawing that into your life? So I think it begins with the awareness of like, you can change your circumstances by being different and allowing different things into your life. So if I look at my life and I'm like, what's the consistent theme? And a lot of this is at work. I mean, yes, it's personal relationships. Since I work with people in work, I'll describe things at work. But if you notice at work, like they always give you, like you're known as the person who gets everything done, and so they always pile stuff onto you because, like, Sheila, she can always handle more work, and so let's just take that special project to her. And she's like, okay, I'll do that too. And so they just pile stuff onto her, and she's like the repository for extra work. Sheila has terrible boundaries, and so she needs to kind of speak up and like be known as something else. So instead of like she'll do it, she'll clean up everybody's messes, she'll take all of the whatever. Sheila can begin over time to say, actually, I have as much as I'm able to do well, and so maybe somebody else you begin by setting those boundaries and teaching people like you have to teach people that you will stand up for yourself. So is there if that were consistently happening to me, what I would want to say is like, what do I need what do people currently believe about me? And what would I like them to believe about me? So Sheila does excellent work, but she's not like not an unlimited amount of that. So when we give her too much stuff, she begins to give that to other people, or, oh, Sheila's really realistic about how much she can get done effectively or whatever. So those are the beginnings of you forming other beliefs about yourself in other people's eyes. And you're hearing like, it's in like they hold that when I teach my clients about branding. I'm like, this is in the hearts and minds of your brand constituents, people who are involved in your brand. So your buyers, your colleagues, your team members, everybody at large, your target audience at large, they hold your brand in their hearts and minds. And so we can't control that, but we can influence it. So let's say Mike is known as a late person, and everybody's like, oh my God, here's Mike again. Well, if Mike shows up on time once, then it's an accident. But if Mike begins to show up consistently on time and even like 5 minutes early, well, suddenly we all begin to have a different view about Mike. And it's like, well, gosh, then maybe anything can happen. Now, if he screws up and is late another time, then it's like, you wash away all the good work. But that's how we can, in little incremental ways, begin to revise someone's ideas about us.
I like that. So I heard you say starts with awareness, then we set boundaries, and then I heard consistency, consistent behavior with that. And that seems like something that's absolutely doable for people, that they can actually control that brand and they can do those things if they want to. So I like that quick little ABC there. Super, super easy to do. 25 years ago, Tom Peters created this brand called You. We talked about this kind of green room style in our prep call here. But why is this so important now, Samantha? Why do folks have to really own this and have some sort of self-determinism in their own brand?
So about the time that Tom Peters said that, the brand called You, like you are the brand. Each individual of us is a brand. Like those of us who are self-employed and have been for a really long time, we're like, oh, we know where our business is the brand and we have that identity. We're aware of that. But what if you're like an employee in a corporation and you're in charge of your own career? Like nobody knows this better than Gen Z. So who I'm talking to right now are going to be older generations who are like, I've heard about this personal brand thing. And what is this really about? You're not gonna have a 30-year career with a single company anymore. And I remember when if you had a resume that looked like every 2 years, jump somewhere every 2 years, like that was a bad thing. That's not a bad thing anymore. So things are really changing. So the consistency, it used to be that we were identified with the companies that we worked with. And now really the consistent thread in your career is you. And so the companies that you work for may change, but the way that you are going to influence and impact your own future and your own career is by taking control of that and owning that. Well, sure, we always had to own our career. Kind of. What you're owning now is like, I can have a consistent brand no matter where I'm working or whether I'm working or not. And as a matter of fact, I don't need to even work for a single company for that to be okay. I can have 3 side hustles that make up my career. But what do the neighbors think? They don't understand that, so and so is from home working from home all the time. Well, this is pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, if you were home all the time and you worked out of a home office, people were like, really? Like, what's really happening over there? Like in 2.5 years, we shook that up entirely. You can work from anywhere, including being a digital nomad. You can work for a number of companies at the same time, or sequentially, but you control that. And then the consistent thing is you as the brand. So you can have your own target audience of followers, colleagues, people who are like, but I care about what Phil has to say, no matter where Phil works. And I might know where you work and I might care where you work, but I might also think like, but I think Phil is like a consultant who also does yada yada. And maybe you do. So you get to create this identity that will be consistent throughout your career, wherever you go. Now, I say consistent. The thing that's consistent is that you own it and control it, but you can have as many iterations as you want. I mean, we're used to famous people like reinventing themselves, constantly. Taylor Swift is like, well, she was this, and now she was this, and now she was this, from country star to whatever just launched this week. So you also have the ability to control that identity and reinvent yourself, but you're in charge of it. The self-determinism is you get to say what that is, and don't let any employer tell you you can't blog and we need you to get those LinkedIn posts that you're doing under control. And I'm not happy with that TikTok. And oh my gosh, a school teacher is on OnlyFans, making her own living. Well, we're all in charge of our own careers.
That's an interesting point there about our own careers, right? Going from LinkedIn and TikTok to OnlyFans, which is super interesting to me, right? I think but that's a natural progression, whether or not people agree with it or not. I mean, that's pretty normal. If people want access to you, for lack of a better term, you give them access in the way that works for you, not necessarily the way that people expect that. And I think that's important. So what about these? I read the other day, this couple had an OnlyFans. They were teachers, and then one of the other teachers found it, and they got fired from this position. So what the heck's up with that?
Well, there may be in some particular jobs morality clauses. So in the contracts that you sign, it'll say you're not allowed to do anything that would, reflect poorly upon the organization that you're a part of. So that's one brand saying to a smaller brand, you can't do anything that would make our larger brand look bad. So to me, that's fair. What I think is not fair is saying it's okay for somebody to have a side hustle. Well, is it okay or isn't it? If it's not okay for people to have side hustles, then pay them a living wage. Pay someone enough money that they don't have to go and have side hustles. Now, as you're saying, is a teacher doing OnlyFans immoral or not? That's a different conversation. To me, people have a right to earn money outside of their work, and they have a right to control their business and their brand. So, morality clauses are a way that an employer can choose to do something about that. And that's a thing that you might sign. So by the way, watch your paperwork when you're signing off on something like that. But an employer should not be able to prevent you from working for them. Where this actually came up that I thought was really interesting, Phil, is during COVID, I personally talked to people who were working more than one full-time job, because the full-time job that they had didn't actually take their full time. And so they could do 2 of them at once. Perhaps it's immoral that they don't inform their employer that they're doing that, but I don't think that if you're super efficient, that you shouldn't be able to handle 2 full-time jobs and be paid 2 full-time salaries, because it's the output and the outcomes that matter. And I don't think it's the way people work that matters. So that, I think, as a society, is what we're kind of debating right now, is what do we do if it doesn't take you full time to do your job? Then do you heaven forbid you need to sit in an office all day long. I mean, I'll tell you, in my corporate days, I sat in my office. Our budget had been cut. I was there for 8 hours. I had no work. My boss's boss came by and was like, looked in my cubicle. So first of all, cubicle tells you everything you need to know. My boss came to me and said, what are you working on? I said, I don't have any work because you've cut my budget. She said, you need to look like you're working. I was like, that was the end. It was one of the many straws that went on to the final straw process. I'm not a person who is pursuing meaningful work. I'm not a person who thrives in you need to look like you're working. And so much, I'm sure so many people who are employees in companies are like, there's too much time spent doing something that appears to be work, which really isn't.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I remember those days too, when sitting in my cubicle as well, like, okay, well, we wrapped everything up.
Yeah.
Okay, and you want me here till what time? 5:30?
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go, right? And that's terrible. I mean, that's demoralizing. That's not helpful. And there were other weeks where I'd have 60 hours worth of work and I would work longer, but God forbid if I would ever leave a few minutes early, like, oh, what are you doing? It's like, really?
Yeah.
Like, come on. Like, I've got a BlackBerry. I'm on call all the time. Give me a freaking break. So with that, let's talk about this idea of anti-work, because I think that's a good segue over here, because I think so many people, I think this is going to catch fire. A lot of people, this kind of anti-work idea. So how do you define that, Samantha?
I think it's a term. I think it's an extreme term to say I'm opposed to the way that we're working right now, and we need to rethink the way we're working. So anti-work doesn't mean I don't think anybody should ever work. I think nobody should be doing things that, or what you were just talking about, where it's like I'm in a demoralized situation where I'm supposed to be pretending something. So there's a huge movement that happened during COVID, and I think a lot of it was, you want me to go work for a job that you're telling me is essential, but I'm only being paid this much money, and I'm not being protected from people who are bullying me, or situations that are like literally dangerous, as opposed to, like, this isn't just psychological unsafety, it's physical unsafety as well. So a lot of, I think as a society, we began to rethink, what do we think we need to do with work? Does everybody actually need to work? Can we pay people to stay at home? Because we kind of did for a while. So like, what's the whole work thing about? And I think if we blow it up and reinvent it, then we have the opportunity to look at what are unsafe and unacceptable work conditions. One of my favorite accounts is, there's I won't swear on your show, but it's called FU I Quit, which is a Twitter account that I adore, and also has I think it has a Reddit component to it.
And an Instagram too, yeah.
Oh, does it? So what's helpful about this account is that they're posting actual screenshots of texts and emails from employers being unreasonable. So someone's saying, like, my dog has died and I'm bereft and I can't work today. And they're like, well, you need to find somebody to cover your shift. No, actually, that's not my job. That's the employer's job. So, and similarly unreasonable things. That's like just the smallest example. So what you see is, across the country, there's this mentality. The problem is that from one point of view, it's like people don't want to work and they don't want to show up and work. But the other side of that is, a lot of the things that we're showing up to work for are irrational. And so they don't make sense. And now, one of my favorite expressions is, the truth is somewhere in the middle. So I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, and we're deciding right now as a nation, like, what are we going to do about this? And I think if we go back to the self-determinism, you don't have to put up with that. If you're in a situation where things are unreasonable and stupid or toxic or whatever they are, you don't have to do that anymore. Enough, like, polish your resume, figure out what your personal brand is, post compelling ideas on LinkedIn, and you're going to get noticed by employers who are possibly not as abusive as the place you're leaving.
Possibly not as abusive. If you're in that bad of a spot, I would hope that it's definitely going to not be. But I'm with you, though, because you never know until you get in there what's really happening there.
Right.
But I think that I was just going to ask, right? Like, so how do we do that, right? How do we get our brand out there, according to you? And I think posting insight is the best way to help with that, right? Asking questions that make people think is a great way to do that. What do you think about people, finding other people that are kind of maybe a bigger brand, and like going to their LinkedIn profile and maybe helping answer questions there? Is that a
Yeah.
good strategy too?
I like that strategy. I mean, we start to know those people, and so there's a way that it can look like the little fish that eat off of the sharks. It can look a little bit like that. And however, it can also look, if you're doing that and you're actually really helping, then I think it makes a big difference. So as a strategy, that, and also reaching out to those people, and saying, hey, here's who I am, and can I help you with some things? So again, it's really saying, what do I want to do? If I could do anything I wanted to, and you can, seeking the joy of your experience, like what would be fun for me to do? What would be exciting? It's not like, oh God, you really want me to write some stuff and I have to do this thing. I'm like, no, what would be fun for you? It takes courage to write somebody who's a little bit bigger or further along on the path from you. But if you did that, then what happens? A lot of those people are like, sure, I would love it if you would, do you want to rewrite my LinkedIn profile, or would you like to write a couple of emails for me, or could I do something for you for free in exchange for? So getting really, building something. But just like, if you feel comfortable on video, like make a 5-minute video and just start putting those out. Go interview somebody who's smart, and like start your own TV show. Like there are so many ways that to me, we are all creators. And those of us who aren't literal creators are enablers of other creators. So maybe you're like amazing at, you've learned video, or you've learned editing or something. Like there are skills that so many of us have just from, honestly, 2 years of being on Zooms. People are just better on video now. People are like, I hate talking to a camera. I'm like, you've been talking to a camera for 2 years in a row. So like everybody has practice at this. So I do think that you can just, decide what you want to have happen, and then just think about, like, what's my next step? You don't have to see the end in sight. I mean, you can, if you have a clear goal, like, for sure, go to it. But if you feel like, I don't even know what it would be, what's the next funnest thing that you think would benefit you, and do that. But remember, like, your insight, you use the word insights, which I think is super. Your insights are helpful to other people. Maybe they're not helpful to everybody, but I'm not as wise as so-and-so. Your audience is going to show up for you because you're going to be wise to other people. So get out there with it.
I love that. That's such awesome advice. And the fact that we're all creators or enablers of the creators, I think is so empowering. That's such an opportunity for folks. Is friends, if you're listening to this, you have the choice, right? Samantha's making this really clear, and I couldn't agree more. We have the choice to decide what it is we want to do, and we only have to take the next most fun step. And I really, really love that. That's awesome advice, and something that everyone can do. So we take that brand, right? We have awareness around what we want. We set some boundaries. We get consistent, and we do this more, right? We share some insights. We take the next most fun step. I know that you work with a lot of folks like this. So what's possible here, Samantha, if they really work hard, and they were to hire you to coach and really do some good work, what's possible for folks?
I mean, the sky's the limit, really. So I work with people who want to, who are consultants. So their business is giving advice. And one of the, something I've been doing since I was a child was giving advice. It's just the idea that actually someday somebody will pay you for that. So if you're a know-it-all, or if you love helping people and teaching things to them, and all of these things that when we're younger, maybe other people don't appreciate as much. Turns out when we grow up, people want to hear what you have to teach them, and how you can help them, and they want to ask you questions that all the answers to. So it's funny. I was just talking to one of my clients, and she's like, we talk about being A+ students. I'm like, a lot of the people that I attract are people who are like, I want to be an A. I know the answer. I'm an A+ student. So that's because the thing that we're motivated by isn't always money, but we are motivated by getting an A. And so sometimes success in your business can feel like getting an A. Like, I had a goal and I achieved it, and that was like an A for me. So what is possible is you can make money doing what you love. There's some caveats to that, but it is possible to do that. A a lot of times, if you're working for an employer, one of the things that you can do is, if you don't want to be employed anymore, or you don't want to work for them, if you're looking for more freedom, like I was saying, you have 3 side hustles, you can leave that employer and work as a consultant for them instead of as a full-time employee for them. So you can build a consulting business. The minimum that I promise my clients is that they can double their revenues. So most people come to me doing, 150-ish to 250-ish, and we can easily double that business. So a $250,000 a year business of 500, like you can earn like whatever you need to get along in your area, wherever you live. Like, I'm from a place where $100,000 is a lot of money, and then I live at a place where $100,000 isn't a lot of money. So, whatever is that to you. And I'll tell you 2 examples. So one is that I have a client who says, I want to have $1 million a year business, but I don't want to have any like employees or team members, or I don't want to have a big team or anything like that. Is that possible? I'm like, yes, absolutely. I know people with that business. And then some people are like, what's the funnest thing in the world for me? I love having a team and I love working with other people. And I feel like I want to have like a $2 million a year business. Can I do that? I'm like, absolutely. So we're building that. And I think the important thing to know is that if it's sometimes we're immune to our own superpowers, and we don't know what the thing that we do, we don't know it's valuable. And if it is valuable, like how valuable is it? And so a lot of my work is in helping consultants to say, oh, this is worth like $100,000 to one client. I'm going to charge, another one is charging like $480,000 a year for one client. So those kind of numbers that might feel crazy to some people out of context, in my world, those are the numbers that we work with. So I hope that seeds the idea that it's possible to earn what you want from your own work.
Awesome. Love hearing that good things are possible for people, amazing things, right? Figure that out and do that. So Samantha, I know that, if people want to get to know you, definitely they should go to your website at samanthahartley.com. But if you had a favorite social media website, where would it be? Where would you tell people to go and connect with you?
Well, the best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. That's where we're all at work. So it's you can just look for Samantha Hartley, and I'll probably pop up as the first result. So I am there, and I'm connected to you. So if you're friends with Phil on LinkedIn, then I'm one of his connections. So I would definitely send you there. I'm hesitating because it's by far not my favorite social media network. But
what's your favorite then? Where do you like to be?
Oh, I'm a Twitter person all day long. I love
Nice.
Twitter. It fits my attention span. Just a little words. I go and read those threads and just go on these deep dives studying about, there was a thing about the Basque language is older than we thought it was. And then why the QWERTY keyboard is the way that it is. Like, I think people don't know. People think that Twitter is all of this, like whatever's going on in the news right now. And what real Twitter is the opportunity to see amazing threads from people, hear breaking news as it's happening. So I'm a big Twitter advocate.
Awesome. That's great. So Twitter or LinkedIn, look for Samantha Hartley. Lots of great stuff today. Love all that you shared. Love the way to get started with the ABCs there, and love the reminder that it's up to us. We have that self-determinism, and we can make this happen. So thank you so much, Samantha. This was great today. I really appreciate you.
I love having me on and talking with you again, Phil. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you. And friends, get going. Decide. Do something. Make it happen, because it's all up to you. Have a great day.